Hi, I'm Augusto Nogues from Guto's Homebrew. In this channel, I'll clarify your queries and answer your questions. In fact, I'll help you to brew your best beer. In this video, I will teach you how to brew a craft beer in efficient process with electric brewing system. The first step is to clean the equipment. This beer will be brewed in electric pot, which must be disinfected. Remember that cleaning and sanitizing are the most important steps to brew a good beer. I am adding water up to 2/3 parts of the pot capacity and heat it to 50 degrees Celsius. When the water is close to that temperature, I will add sodium percarbonate. This is an oxygenated cleaner, suitable for the food industry. It's 4 grams per liter, so I'm using 80 grams. The next step is to recirculate that mix into the pot for 5 minutes. Then, it's to be used the same mix to clean the fermenter. This mixture must remain in the fermenter for at least 5 minutes. I'm using a stainless steel fermenter, but it could be plastic for food use. The next step is to rinse all the equipment with potable water. That have to be done in the fermenter as well. Then dry and perform the final disinfection, for which I will use an acid solution for food use, but it can also be alcohol 70 degrees, or a solution of phosphoric acid. In this case, I have used low foam anionic acid. I have put about 5 ml of the solution for 250 ml of water. If it was 70 degrees alcohol, it could be applied directly without diluting in water. It has to be applied with a clean, dry cloth or paper towel to all parts of the equipment. Let's go to the second step. Mill the malt grain. Set the grinder to just over 0.05, which is a suitable dimension for all types of malt. You should avoid crushing the malt to the point of being very fine, that is, almost powdered. So, I will do a coarse grind. I will put the malt in the grain mill and start grinding. Look at how the grain looks with a coarse grind. It looks just broken. In the case of not having a grain mill, remember that malt grain can be bought in breweries already ground. Brewing is the third step. This recipe is for making an amber lager beer. The complete recipe will be available at the end of this video. It will take 6 kilos of malt for 20 liters of water. First, I will heat the 20 liters of water to 65 degrees Celsius. The pH can be checked to ensure that the acidity of the water is adequate. Be careful that when you add the malt, the pH of the water will adjust, and it will come very close to the ideal pH for the mashing process, which is 5.2. I'm also going to check the conductivity or mineralization of the water. The lower the mineralization, the lower the hardness of the water. In this example, the water has a very low conductivity, which is ideal for mashing. Upon reaching the mash temperature of 65 degrees Celsius, I will introduce the malt. Then I will stir a little with the beer spoon and close the pot. I will leave it in recirculation and macerating for 60 minutes. When it's close to mashing time, I will perform the iodine test. The objective is to check that all the starch has been converted to sugar. Collect a sample of the wort and add a few drops of iodine. Make sure that when you put the drops in, they turn brown. It indicates that all the starch has been converted to sugar. If the result is black or purple color, mash has to last a little longer. When we are sure that all the starch has been transformed into sugar, we move on the mash out phase. This process will ensure that enzymes stop acting on the starch. Although it's a stage that can be avoided, it's recommendable to guarantee that the enzymatic process ends. The ideal temperature is between 76 and 78 degrees Celsius, and the recommended time is between 10 to 15 minutes. I have set 77 degrees Celsius for 10 minutes. As soon as the mash out is finished, I will set up the sparging process. This is nothing more than recovering the residual sugar left in the malt grains. Water is poured through a leaky lid that will speed through the grains of the basket. The water temperature must be the same as the mash out, and the amount of spurge water must have been previously heated. It is also important that the pH of the spurge water is adjusted in the same way as the water at the beginning of the mash. I will add 1 liter of water per minute, or if it were possible to use a constant flow rate, it should be very low, about 60 liters per hour. Boiling is the final phase in brewing, and it's also when the hops are added. Depending on each recipe, there will be a specific amount and a certain time in which they must be added to the wort. It can be from one addition to several. It will depend on the bitterness and aroma you want as a result. The minimum boiling time should be 60 minutes and can be extended to reach the desired density. Whirlpool is a centrifugation to separate the solids and other particles from the wort and accumulate them in the center and bottom of the pot. It's recommended to use some type of natural coagulant, such as erythritol, about 10 minutes before the end of the boil. For the whirlpool, you can use a specific and sterilized spoon with a drill or rotate vigorously with the beer spoon for at least 4 minutes. This process will make the wort cleaner and improve the final result of the beer. Cooling the wort is essential to later on do the transfer to the fermenter and deposit the yeasts. In this example, I'm using a sterilized stainless steel coil cooler, where cold water will pass through that and it will lower the temperature of the wort below 30 degrees in less than 20 minutes. While the wort cools and the solids and other particles settle to the bottom of the pot, I'm going to hydrate the yeast. Hydration is used when the yeast is dry and powdered. Take 10 parts of water for 1 part of yeast. That is, for 20 grams of yeast, I will use 200 milliliters of water. In a pitcher sterilized with alcohol 70 degrees or anionic acid, put the corresponding amount of water at room temperature. The water should be previously boiled or use mineral water. Add yeast, stir a little, cover with aluminum foil, and wait between 20 and 30 minutes. This stage is important to activate the yeast that will transform the wort into beer. Now I'm going to transfer the wort already decanted at a low temperature, but it could be at room temperature as well. I will add to the wort foam enhancer to improve the quality and retention of the beer foam at the end. The ratio is 3 grams for each 10 liters, then I will use 6 grams. I will also add nutrients for the yeast. This will facilitate the work of the yeasts. For this amount of wort, which is just over 20 liters, I will use 4 grams. Now I'm going pitching yeast already hydrated. The next step will be to oxygenate the wort through strong agitation, in the same way as it was done at whirlpool stage. This process is very important since yeast needs oxygen to transform sugar into alcohol and CO2. The last step is to hermetically close the fermenter and put the airlock with a sterilized, low-influence substance. It can be vodka, whiskey, or alcohol 70 degrees. In this way, possible contamination during the primary fermentation process is avoided. This process can take from 1 to 3 weeks, depending on the style of the beer. This is an amber lager recipe, which is low fermentation, so the initial fermentation temperature should be between 8 and 10 degrees Celsius. To know more details about each of the processes and find out more to make the best beer, subscribe to my channel and hit like in the videos. Remember that the best beer is the one you like. This recipe is for an amber lager beer. It has 3 malts and 2 hops. The mash is at 65 degrees Celsius for 60 minutes. Be careful to add the hops at their respective times and also at the fermentation temperatures. If you liked this recipe and are interested in others, write your comments and suggestions.